Let's talk about how we can correct for parallax or converging lines in our images. Lightroom has a great tool that we can use to compensate for this. And this happens when we're photographing with our standard DSLRs, when we take a low angle and tilt our cameras up, the way our focal planes work, the way lenses and light work, it makes it look as though, maybe buildings are going backwards or up into the sky in a pyramid type fashion. So if we keep following these sides of the barn here, eventually they're gonna converge, and that's not how it is in the real world. So Lightroom has a tool that we can use to correct for this. We can straighten out our buildings, and this is very useful when we're shooting architecture, or just if you're interested in it all. First thing I would do is first you come into lens corrections, and I'd actually do this on every image before I edit. I get in here and I click remove chromatic aberration. And this is just a little imperfection that happens a lot in our digital photos. Get a little bit too magenta. You'll see it on some edges along lines next to some highlights and contrast. And so this, we get in that, and it can take that away or at least decrease it. And then I also enable profile corrections. And so what this is actually designating what camera lens we use when we photograph. And so this one I know I shot with a Nikon, and it automatically brings up what the lens was. It's embedded in my metadata, luckily, so it already knows that. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. And then I'm going to come down here to transform. And this is where we can really get into fixing some of our manipulations. Now, one thing you want to know first is before you start adjusting any of these, you really want to hit constrain crop, because when you start adjusting some of that, you see how now our canvas includes this white part. Well, this is Lightroom leaving that as part of our image. Well, we're going to go ahead and let Lightroom crop into our image so that we only see what we've adjusted. And the way we do that is by enabling this constrain crop. So all of these adjustments here will essentially move our image in that direction. And so vertical, you see when I click on that little toggle, there is a grid pattern that comes up over my photo. And this is very helpful where I'm looking for those straight lines, where I'm trying to make this barn look straight up. And either direction you go, the program's gonna tilt the image in that direction. And I don't need a huge adjustment on this, just trying to make it look a little straight. We can also adjust, the right and left. There's a little bit off on that. And just like we saw in the crop tool, we can also rotate in here too, where we can straighten your image out. So there's another option on that one. And then when you're all set, if you like it, then, there it is. Now, the barn in this image may look good, but off to the left-hand side, we have this very distracting white light. So after this, I would bring it back into the crop tool to adjust for that. Let's go ahead and look at another image that we can use this same tool to enhance our photo. So this is definitely a little skewed here on the photograph here. There's definitely this wonderful grid pattern, a lot of lights, but it's definitely tilted. I want this to be straight up. It's really kind of come this formal composition to it. So I'm going to start with the same thing. I'm going to remove chromatic aberration. I'm going to enable my profile corrections. This one, though, this was actually shot on a Pentax mirrorless camera. So that's going to have a different, kind of digital code, but whatever. Camera's a camera. It doesn't matter. And so now there's a number of things I'm going to get into this to essentially straighten this photo out. And it doesn't take a lot, but it just takes a little bit of moving here. I'm going to go ahead and straighten this out first. Let's rotate it so we have a nice straight line, straight base to work with. Then straighten out this grid pattern here. And you can see that's a pretty drastic change to what we had initially of how askewed this photo really was. And now looking at that, everything is really straight up. Paula Abdul would be very excited for this photo from where it came to now. And if you get that joke, thank you. If not, I don't feel bad. But that is the transform tool. That's how we can correct for parallax and converging lines. Just a few things that you can really do. You can try the auto. I'm, one that likes to be all in control. I like to see things happen. So there it is.